All right, so in the last video, we looked at get element by ID and we looked at query selector, which are the two methods you can use to select single elements. Now, if you want to select multiple elements, like let's say all of these list items, then there's some other methods you can use. Now, query selector all is the method that you'll use probably 100% of the time. There's some older ones like get elements by class name and get elements by tag name, which I will show you just so you know, but you're probably just going to use query selector all. So you can get by just using this and query selector for multiple elements. Now, as far as what this gives us, let's go ahead and I'm going to create a variable here called list items. And what I want to put in here is all of these li tags, all of these list items. If I go to my elements tab here and click on that, you'll see that we have these li tags, and they have a class of item. I could use that as well for my selector, but let's say we want this to equal document dot query selector all, and I can put li in here. I could also, like I said, I could do class item, and that will select all of those. Let's leave it at that, because if you were to add other li's on the page somewhere else, those would also get included if you just use li. Now, if I console log list items, I just want to show you what that gives us. So let's go to our console, and what it gives us is a node list. And a node list is an array-like structure, much like an HTML collection, which we saw in the past. In fact, the older methods I'm going to show you do return an HTML collection as opposed to a node list. Now, there are some differences. One key difference is you can use high order array methods on a node list. You can't do it with an HTML collection. With an HTML collection, you would have to first convert it to an array. And I'll show you a for each loop in a minute, but I want to show you can also get, if you want an individual item, just like an array, you can use the bracket syntax. If I put a 1 in here, that gives me the second element. Let's say I just want the text. I could do, let's say, inner text. Okay, and that gives me orange juice because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm getting the index of 1, getting the inner text. So you can access individual elements like that, like an array. Now, if I were to, let's say I want to make all I want to make the color of these red. So I couldn't just do list items dot style dot color and set that to red. If I try that, that's not going to work because I'm trying to access style on a node list. Okay, style is for a specific element. Now I could do this. I could say 1 and that'll change just that. But what I would do if I wanted to change all of them is a for each loop, right? So I could say list items dot for each, and in here we'll say for each item, and then we'll take the that specific item, and let's take the style, set the color to red, save that, and now they're all red. Okay, now this is different from jQuery for those of you that have worked with jQuery, because with jQuery you could in fact take the list items variable and do dot style color and they would all turn red, but it's a little different with vanilla JavaScript. And you can do whatever you want in here. Like we could say let's say if item, and remember we can access the index, so I could actually do this because we already know how for each works. We can pass in an index, and we'll say if the index is equal to 1, then let's take the item and let's remove it. So we'll say dot remove, and we'll get into methods like this later. But now you can see that that has been removed. Now let's say we wanted to change the text of the first one from apples to oranges. So we could do if, and then say if the index is equal to 0, then let's take this particular item and change the inner text. We'll change it to oranges. Save that. Now notice the text does change, but the delete button is also gone. Whenever you're working with elements, you have to know exactly what you're working with. If we look at a list item here, it doesn't only include the text, it also includes a delete button. So you have to take that into account. So what we could do is just take everything that's in the list item and copy it, and then here there is HTML in this, so we would say inner HTML, and then I'll use a template string just so it's easier. So use some backticks here and paste this in, and then change apples to oranges, save, and now we have oranges and the delete button is also there. So you see a lot of stuff like this, template strings within in vanilla JavaScript. All right, now I want to show you some of the other methods that we can use that you probably won't, but I do just want to show them to you. So I'm going to comment this out just so we have our original list back. And then let's say we want to select all these with the get elements by class name. So I'm going to say const list items, we'll call it list items 2, and say document dot, and then it's get elements by class name. Okay, and then we know that they all have a class of item, and this is kind of restrictive because you can only do classes, and you don't want the dot actually because it's always going to be a class. Just like with get element by ID, you don't put the number sign. Now if I console log list items 2, we get an HTML collection as opposed to a node list. Okay, we can still access individual items like we would with an array. Like if I put a 2 here and save, actually let's do 2 and then dot inner text, and we get Oreos. Okay, so you can pass in an index like this, but if I were to do a for each, so let's say list items 2 dot for each, say for each item, then we're going to let's just do a console log of that item and the inner text. Save that, and it says for each is not a function because it's not a function for this list items 2, which is an array, an HTML collection. Now what we could do is use array.from to convert it to an array. So I could say const list items, let's just call it list items array, and then set it to array.from, and then pass in our list items 2, which is an HTML collection. And then if we run the for each on list items array, then we're going to see that that works. All right, so just keep that in mind. If you have an HTML collection and you want to use for each or any other method, you want to first convert it to an array. Now, and then the last one I want to show you is similar to this, but it's called get elements by tag name. So I'll call this one list item 3, and let's say get elements by tag name, and then you would put in the tag like li, list item. So if I console log list items 3, again, it's an HTML collection. So if you wanted to use a for each, you would have to first turn it into an array. But you can access specific things, like let's say we wanted the first item, that gives us the first item. If we want to get the inner text, we get apples. Okay, and I'm not going to do much more with these because I'm pretty sure that this is the only time we're using these in the course. Okay, you want to stick with query selector all for most cases. So you can get by with just using query selector and query selector all.